3, 2.
This was William Bruce Jenner, now known as Caitlyn Jenner. Jenner won a gold medal in the 1976 Olympics game in Montreal with a record of 8,618 points. Jenner is by far one of the most prominent and remembered athletes who also came out as transgender. This is Caitlyn Jenner now. How would people from the 19th century react if Caitlyn Jenner transitioned at that time instead of the 21st century after her Olympics career? Transgender athletes have been fighting for their rights where fairness is the main issue at target. It is important to acknowledge that although there has been an increase in acceptance over the years, many factors still come to play when it comes to fairness. In 1936, the IOC established gender verification or chromosome testing for females. In 1966, associations agreed on changing their policy on submitting gender verification to enforcing compulsory genital speculation on every female athlete. Renee Richards was the beginning of how sports organizations changed their attitude towards transgender athletes. Lastly, the IOC successfully welcomed transgender athletes to compete with cisgender athletes in 2004. However, there were still some requirements like submitting confirmations of surgery and hormonal replacement therapy. The motivation of gender verification was used to maintain fairness between female and male athletes, as stated, unfair male-like physical advantage from competing in female-only events.
Policymakers that's responsible to regulate trans athletes faces an urgent problem. There are obvious biological advantages displayed by the trans women who are currently competing in a women's division.
For instance, a British study in 2021 led by Timothy Roberts and his teammates examined how gender-affirming hormones affect transgender athlete performance on sport. And the result of the study indicated that even after a year of testosterone suppression recommended by World Athletics for inclusion in women's sport events, trans women still have a 9% faster run speed than cisgender women, indicating that a year of testosterone suppression is not enough for transgender women to perform the same as cisgender women. Moreover, a review from Alison K. Heather, a full professor of physiology, stated that estrogen therapy can help feminize the body, but it does not provide men with a physiology more similar to women. For example, it cannot alter the male skeletal structures developed during puberty under the influence of testosterone, and meaning that most of the anatomical structure in the biological male are unaffected by estrogen therapy. It is true that estrogen therapy can help lower hemoglobin levels in feminized males' bodies. However, this parameter won't be present unless testosterone levels are suppressed to levels within a biological female range and kept there for an extended period of time.
The question is whether policymakers from different government bodies should agree with what the society is saying or use science as a way to create an even competing ground for all athletes. Many governing bodies have already been affected by the changing perspective of society. NCAA, one of the governing bodies that is responsible for the college division, allowed Leah Thomas to compete in the NCAA Division I National Championship, even after not meeting the standard time of 2 years in the gender transforming therapy established by the USA Swimming Administration. The International Olympic Committee also altered their policies and wishes to please the public more by abandoning their old policies that use science as a way to regulate trans women qualification. This, of course, causes backlashes from other government bodies, one such as the FISA, where the FISA disagree with what the IOC are saying and support the listing of testosterone in the World Anti-Doping Agency. Our group established one rejected solution, which is estrogen therapy, in which one individual body's testosterone level is lowered and estrogen is added into the cardiovascular system. We rejected this solution based on how estrogen therapy works. It takes 2 full years to eliminate physical advantage of a cis male.
Yeah. The problem of inclusion and fairness is also causal to people's ideologies and cultural backgrounds where they grew up in.
Rebecca Yorgi, one of Leah Thomas's competitors, spoke on the unfairness she believed was sparked by Leah Thomas. Georgia was unable to enter the finals, so she wrote an open letter statement blaming the NCAA for their rules. Another competitor of Leah Thomas, Erica Sullivan, came third and addressed that transgender athletes should not be excluded from women's sports since they work as hard as other cisgender women.
Jill White spoke about the 2022 World Cup held in Qatar. The event that welcomed sports fans from all over the world was held in a country that criminalized any dissemination of LGBTQ expression. And so Jill White raises the issue of being forced to go back into the closet for 4 to 5 weeks just to celebrate the World Cup without violating the Islamic Sharia law and the Qatari law. As quoted by General Ansari, these laws and views marginalizes queers, and by recognizing this issue, we see how a country's culture creates an overlap in the sports world. Because despite Qatar holding one of the biggest sports events, they would most likely prohibit a transgender from competing in sports.
Similar to the laws enforced in Qatar, there was a bill designed to exclude transgender girls from participating in women's sports at school. This lawsuit, introduced by the Alliance Defending Freedom, was originally fueled by one of the cisgender girls' mothers whose daughter had competed against the transgender girls in her category. In this case, cisgender girls' mothers have placed themselves in a position to protect their daughters by excluding transgender girls from their participation in sports.
Mariela discusses how Mexico's cultural machismo affects inclusion, because the cultural norms ingrained in Mexico forces people to maintain these traditional gender roles of masculine pride in men, and professionals consequently have a lack of knowledge regarding the biological development of transgenders' transitions, so it hinders them from employing inclusivity in sports curriculums.
Regarding transgender sports participation, some countries will be more accepting, whereas others are more likely to portray exclusivity and prejudice. Specifically, trans women are often encountered by ideology and heritage differences. Hence, it is better to have a solution that revolves around that. We have come to the conclusion that there should be a separate category for transgenders and cisgenders.
The limitation for this, however, is that it's counterintuitive if our argument revolves around inclusion, but we propose a solution that segregates cisgenders and transgenders.
In the athletic spectrum, some countries will be more accepting while others will simply prohibit transgender athletic participation due to these factors. This issue is not black and white. Controversies will still be prominent and appeasing the majority is difficult. However, we believe that the solutions we propose are what works for the better good of everyone.